Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 53 of The Player's Take. I am your host, Justin DeSimone, joined by my co-host, the man who animated the Illidan vs. Arthas fight, Montrell Rice.
I did not animate that trash ass fight.
Come on, man. You don't want to take credit for that?
Hell no. Ugh, it was nasty.
All right, well, we're going to get into that quite a bit here. So, for those of you who haven't listened before, The Player's Take is our weekly show where we talk about video games, video game news, and other topics pertaining to video games. We post at 6 a.m. Central Time on Fridays on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and your favorite podcast app of choice. Let's start like we always do with what we've been playing. Montrell, let's start with you because I really only have one game to talk about. What have you been playing this past week, sir?
I've been playing a little bit of Couture again, and I've been playing a little bit of Witcher. I may not give that game up. I did get, like I said, I got the Skellige, so I'm giving that game a break for right now. Kind of burnt out, even though I love the game. It's just a lot to take in. And then I put KH3 Remind, but I'm actually playing through the entire thing again.
Yeah.
So I just do have a couple little tidbits on that. So I'm playing through critical mode with the new update, the 1.09 update, and the Remind DLC. So the Remind DLC doesn't really add any cutscenes to the early part of it. I did notice little things like dialogue seems to be a tad bit faster. So like
it's snappier, right? I think you was talking to you. You said that they like kind of.
It looks like they
cut the pauses. They cut the pauses down and stuff like that.
The thing is, I can't find it anywhere in the patch notes or anything like that. But I think they stealth did it. I think there was like a stealth patch. They did that.
Yeah.
But I have been playing. I'm 10 hours into the game, and 10 hours in game time into the game, and I'm already at the Frozen World. So that's because I just been skipping cutscenes, and this game is a lot better when you just skip cutscenes. And that's really bad because Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts is supposed to be about the story too. But I just been skipping cutscenes and going straight to the battles, and I'm having a lot of fun just doing that. Like it's like I don't even know what to call it. It's like a time attack mode or something like that. Like where you just skip all the cut the bullshit and you just go straight through the games, the game levels, and that's what I'm doing. And I predict I should reach the end of the game, maybe 20 hours game time. So I'm at 10 right now. I got to do Pirates of the Caribbean, and I have to do Big Hero 6. I predict Pirates of the Caribbean may go a little long for me.
Yeah, it's a long world.
But I think I can knock that out. Skipping all the cutscenes and everything like that, I could probably knock that out in like 2 or 3 hours. I think the biggest quantity of my time, honestly, is going to be at the last part, the Gauntlet. I predict that the young Xehanort, Amnis, Amson and Xemnas fight. That fight is going to be really tough for me.
Yeah, it was pretty tough even in the base game on hard.
Yeah, so
I remember.
Because a lot of the enemies do hit hard on this game or on the critical mode, and they nerf the fuck out of magic. Like, not the power levels of magic, but your MP bar is cut in half, so you can only do about 5 attacks before you have a sliver left, and you want to save that sliver for your cure. So yeah, you only get about 5 attacks. So magic is like non-existent. So I went with the physical build where I'm just like building straight damage and vitality. I did do some research. A lot of people said that's the best build to go through. It just used a lot of physical keyblades. So a lot of people said the Wheel of Fate. I unlocked
Oblivion.
Not Oblivion. What's the other one? Oathkeeper. I like Oathkeeper. And I'm using the Kingdom Key as well. That's a really good key to have. So those are my 3 keys for right now. Overall, though, I feel like the game is a lot better. I just wish we got this game upon release. Like this combat, because my review would have been different of the game. Unfortunately, my review of the story still stays the exact same. It's trash. The pacing's trash. And I don't like it at all.
Well, it's going to be a theme, I think, of this episode is games that came out like shit and maybe get fixed later. But, all right. So Kingdom Hearts, what else have you been playing, though?
That's it. That's all I've been playing.
That's it? Okay. We played a little PUBG. I don't think we have much to say on it at this point. It's kind of just a recurring multiplayer game for us.
Yeah, yeah.
I really do. I do enjoy squads a lot, but
These last couple of weeks or the last couple of days have been hard for us.
Yeah, I think I was talking to Snakes about this at your Super Bowl party. Like, maybe we kind of just need to start mixing it up, because I think the last time we played, when we switched back to Erangel and Miramar, I actually really did enjoy it that time.
Okay.
Versus the first time we swapped back. I actually it was a nice change of pace from Karrakin, where, because we were kind of blitzing our way through all these nights, just playing Karrakin back to back to back to back to back to back,
Yeah, yeah.
And I think we got to a point where we burnt ourselves out on it a little bit.
Yeah, I get it.
I think we were getting frustrated with that, with the map, given the fact that we were burnt out. So, I think we just need to mix it up a little. Try playing some of those other maps. I really want them. I need them to bring Vikendi back, though. I'm really hoping it's not on ice for too long.
I think it's on ice till the next patch, and we don't know when the next patch is coming out. Yeah.
I mean, I'm worried that it's going to be gone this whole season.
Oh, you think it's a seasonal thing?
I do think that, because they said they're redesigning the map, which is not going to take them 2 weeks. Like, I feel if they're going to add the missile thing in the destructible buildings to the map, that's going to take some time. So
yeah, you're right.
I don't know. I'm worried it's going to be gone until the end of the season, which, I mean, that's like 2.5 months from now. So I don't know. Because I do like that map. So
yeah, that was a really good map. It was a cool map.
Otherwise, I've been playing some DBZ Kakarot some more. I don't have much more to say about it right now. I really kind of want to leave my thoughts until I finish it at this point. My feelings haven't changed much from the last couple weeks, though. So we are doing something a little different, I guess, this week. There have been some news stories to talk about, but we are electing to kind of punt those to next week, because we're going to be dedicating basically the rest of this episode to talking about the last game I've been playing, which is Warcraft 3 Reforged. So, so if you're looking forward to any news that happened this week, stay tuned for that next week. We're going to lump that in with the news next week. We're just going to go through like 2 weeks of news in one episode. It'll be a huge, meaty episode that you know from us. So we're going to talk about Warcraft 3 Reforged, because there is a lot to say about this game. I've been playing it. I probably put about 7 or 8 hours in so far. I've finished the Orc Prologue campaign. I also finished I haven't finished, but I'm on the 6th mission of the Human campaign, 6th of 9 missions. And I've been playing exclusively with the new graphical style that they've introduced to the Warcraft 3 Reforged. But this game has kind of blown up in Blizzard's face and has turned into a insane controversy, more than anything I can remember recently. Like, I feel like this is worse than Diablo Immortal, the Diablo Immortal announcement.
You don't say.
I mean,
do tell me more.
I'm going to be honest, it's probably not as big as the Diablo Immortal announcement, because that was such an internet-wide thing. But in terms of...
It was live, yeah.
Yeah, it was live. It was live streamed, and there was the YouTube videos and all that. I think, though, this is a much bigger fuck-up than that.
I agree with you.
That was an optical fuck-up, and that was a PR fuck-up. This is just... I mean, we're going to get into it in detail, but this has got to be one of the worst game launches I think I've ever seen in my life. And that is saying something, dude, because I've seen some trash. We've lived through Final Fantasy XIV's the first version. We've lived through No Man's Sky. We've lived through Fallout 76, and I think this tops all of those, personally.
You think this tops Fallout 76?
Yes. That game has that game...
And Anthem?
Man, that's tough.
Yeah, I think it's up there. I think it's top 3.
Okay. It's unique, though.
It is unique.
Amongst those.
This is a very unique situation where everything's not in your face, but it is in your face if you know how to look for it.
Let's start, I guess, with the reason why this is unique, because they didn't just release a shitty game. That's irregardless of that. They released a game and basically took away the old version of Warcraft 3, and it's gone. It doesn't exist anymore. You can't play the version of Warcraft from before Reforged anymore. It doesn't exist. Battle.net's gone. Like, hold on. Let me get out my laundry list of issues, because the game is basically now always online. if you do not play online, supposedly the game does not save your progress the way it does when you're online. So I don't think auto saves work, and I think if you save the game, it doesn't like it. I think the only way is if you manually save. That's the only way the game saves your progress anymore. If you're offline, as I said, they eliminated the original version of Warcraft 3, and what this means is there are tons of features that were in the game prior to this patch that came out that upgraded it to Reforged that are gone. So you cannot play the game offline anymore. Like, you can't do offline skirmishes against bots anymore. You can play against bots, but you have to host an online multiplayer game and just fill all the slots with bots before somebody joins. Like, that's the only way you can play against bots. Peer-to-peer has been removed. LAN has been removed, which is a really egregious one. You cannot play this game over LAN anymore. That's fucking insane to me.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be connected to Blizzard servers to play this game with people, which is ridiculous. They made some changes to the campaigns that I kind of want to put those aside for now because I have some issues with them related to some of their comments as well. But they did change some of the campaigns, and you cannot play the original incarnation of the campaigns anymore. Like, they're gone. You can't play it without the changes that Reforged introduced, which is not what they said when they initially set out to make this game, and they announced this game at BlizzCon in 2018. They said you would be able to play the old versions of the campaigns. Like,
they're gone.
And they're gone, yeah. And now the old version of BattleNet that Warcraft 3 had, also gone. And along with that, clans are gone, tournaments are gone, ranked ladder is gone, all of your progress is gone. Like, anything you had that was like in your profile, your win-loss record, it's all gone. You can import your profile, but if you don't in 90 days, it's going to get deleted. So that's pretty bad. People's custom campaigns are gone. They got deleted out of their game install folder when they updated this patch, regardless of whether you bought the game or not. So you can't use custom campaigns anymore either. Like, you cannot play them. Like, you have to make new ones in order to play them. So
what are custom campaigns? Are those custom maps or?
Yeah, custom story driven maps. So like the game has campaigns that are sold at the game. Like, people made their own campaigns that are story driven.
Oh, okay.
Those don't work anymore. A lot of custom maps from the original version of Warcraft 3 no longer work. They're not like they're not compatible with the version of the game anymore. Not all of them, but a lot of them don't work, or they're severely broken when you try to play them. Like, they just don't really work very well. So that's just the tip of the iceberg, really, with this. And that should tell you all you need to know. The things that I just listed are really bad. And this, as I said, this is why this is really unique, because as bad as Anthem was, as bad as the original version of Final Fantasy XIV was, as bad as No Man's Sky was, as bad as Fallout 76 was, these are new games that were just bad, you know? This is a remaster of an existing video game that literally deleted the classic version of the game and just took it away from people, regardless of whether you bought the remaster or not. That's the bad part, you know? It's like, it's one thing if you bought Reforged and you lost that client and you can't play it anymore, but the fact that people who did not buy Reforged have to upgrade to this client in order to play it is just, that's one of the most, it's something we should have seen coming. I think we were naive. Apparently the StarCraft remaster did the same thing, so we all should have known better, I guess.
Well, I was reading up on that. Apparently, they still do have the BattleNet for StarCraft Remaster. You still can't play Brood War Remastered or Brood War BattleNet on there. They have retained that. I did actually just look that up.
Well, it's because they didn't make a new infrastructure for it, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Probably.
So, and on top of that, Korea is still playing StarCraft in the LCS over there. So that wouldn't mess up their money. They still play StarCraft. So if you can you break it down for me as far as like 2018 all the way up until now? What was promised, what was not promised, so what was promised in 2018 when they first revealed this?
Well,
for the viewers or for the listeners that don't know,
I just gotta
let's break down what Warcraft 3 is and what it did for gaming in general. For listeners who don't know what Warcraft 3 is, because there are some listeners who don't know that. And then if you guys heard of World of Warcraft, just spoiler
This is the
alert.
predecessor too.
Yeah, this laid down the groundwork for that game. But yeah, take it away.
So I want to preface this by saying that Warcraft 3 is literally one of my favorite games that I've ever played. Period. It's probably in my top 5 all time. And when I say top 5, honestly, it's probably 2 or 3. Like it's not. This is like literally one of my favorite games. So this has been one of the most heartbreaking weeks I can remember. I have been depressed since this came out. And literally have been borderline emotional about it. Like just thinking about it constantly. I cannot get this out of my head. They've done something unimaginable. This is like worse than what I believe the worst case scenario was going to be for this game. Which is astounding. It never even crossed my mind that they would somehow ruin Warcraft 3. Like I couldn't even fathom that. At least because my thought process was like at the very least I'd have the old game, you know?
Yeah.
So Warcraft 3, for those of you who don't know, Warcraft is Blizzard's basically, it's their biggest franchise, obviously. Like, there's Warcraft 1, there's Warcraft 2, Warcraft 3, which are all RTS games. And then they made World of Warcraft. Obviously, World of Warcraft is what put Blizzard on the map. But let's start at the beginning. Warcraft 1 is basically the game that kind of turned Blizzard into a legit company. They had made some games under a different name for the Super NES. They made Blackthorn, Lost Vikings, and Rock and Roll Racing, and Rock and Roll Racing is fucking awesome, by the way. But those games, they were a different company. Like, they weren't named Blizzard. They became Blizzard after they made those games, and then they made Warcraft 1. I believe it came out in 1994, and it was an RTS, and it was I think it was in DOS, and it, like, if you look at it now, dude, it's really rough looking. It doesn't play well. You cannot even control very many units at once. Like, it's a really rough game. Like, trying to play that now would be impossible for most people. But 2 years after that, they came out with Warcraft 2, and this is the game that put Blizzard on the map because it was not DOS based, and this game was so smooth and just so beautiful to look at. It was 2D sprites, but dude, it was just so vibrant and colorful, and it had great,
kind of like StarCraft, right? I'm assuming like the sprites as far as like 2D on the plane.
It was more 2D than StarCraft. StarCraft kind of has like a fake 3D look to it.
Okay.
Warcraft 2 is much more like static. Like, there's not as much, because you know in StarCraft how like buildings kind of vibrate and move, and certain like I'm thinking of the Zerg specifically. Like, the Zerg buildings kind of like pulse and stuff, and like the Terran buildings, the supply depots have like those spinning fans. Like, Warcraft was a lot more static. There wasn't very much animation to the buildings or the units, really.
I got you, yeah.
They kind of just were there and stood there. Like, they animated when they moved and when things like hit them and stuff, but so it wasn't, but still, it was a very vibrant game. It had a lot of personality, and the game was really fast and played really well and was fun. It had great music. It had a really good story. This was like one of the first PC games I feel like that was just like really, really good. Then obviously they followed it up with StarCraft, and that just blows Warcraft 2 out of the water, in my opinion. But Warcraft 3 was a game long in the works. I believe it was intended to come out around 2000 originally, and it got delayed a few times because the scope kind of grew, and eventually the game came out in 2002, Reign of Chaos, and then there was an expansion a year later, The Frozen Throne, in 2003.
Okay.
And when Warcraft 3 came out, the Reign of Chaos, dude, this game was not perfect at launch, but this game was incredible right out of the gate, in my opinion. Like, this game was flawless, and I think the original Reign of Chaos campaign is just so good. It's such a good story. The missions are awesome. I think a lot of the missions are just excellent. I love the way because they like revolutionized RTSs with this game. You know, StarCraft was huge, and it was really an important game, and it's probably the most important, like, not important, I'd say the most popular RTS to ever be made.
Yeah,
I would say, but Warcraft 3 is probably the most important RTS to ever be made. And the reason I say that is because they introduced the mechanic with Warcraft 3. They really diverged their design philosophies with these two games. With StarCraft, that game is a very macro-heavy game. And by macro, what I mean by that is it's about base building. It's about building an army. It's about managing your economy and making sure you're hyper-efficient with unit building.
Okay.
Whereas with Warcraft 3, they diverged from that, where you still have base building and you have army building, but they introduced this mechanic of hero units. And hero units basically in Warcraft 3 are really powerful units. You can only have 3 of them per game, but they level up. They get more powerful. They have their own unique stats that the units don't have. They have 3 stats: agility, strength, and stamina. Or agility, strength, and intelligence. And those 3 stats. So strength gives you hit points and health regen. Agility gives you armor and attack speed. And then intelligence gives you mana and mana regen. And then whichever one is the hero's primary stat gives them damage for every point they have, basically.
Okay. All right.
So every race in Reign of Chaos had 3 different heroes. So there were 12 types of heroes total in Reign of Chaos. And they were insane. They were extremely powerful units. Like they are able to take out small squads of units on their own if you're good enough at maneuvering them. That's how powerful they are. And as they level up, the disparity between them and the units just gets more and more ridiculous, because a level 1 hero is formidable, but a level 10 hero is almost an unstoppable wrecking machine. Like, depending on the hero, it really depends on the hero. But I'm thinking of the Orc Blade Master, and specifically, is this hero is just so ridiculously powerful by the time they're level 10 that they are almost impossible to kill. They have this ability called Mirror Image, which splits them into 4, and you don't know which one's real. They have Critical Strike on like passively, and then they have an ability that lets them go invisible. So they're like it's a really slippery unit. So all the heroes, though, are powerful in their own way, right? They have their kind of niche. So this mechanic, though, changed the way the game played, because it became a game much more about micro than macro. And by micro, what I mean is micromanaging your units in combat. That's what became more important, is the person who had the better micro tended to win Warcraft 3 games more often than not, because the macro just wasn't that. It wasn't like the key element to the game. Like, obviously you needed to be able to build units. You needed to have a good influx of gold and wood, and you needed to have, you need to expand to other gold mines and stuff like that. You needed to do that. That was part of the game, and it was an important part of the game. But if you lost the decisive fight against your opponent, you were going to have a hard time coming back from that, because you just can't build units fast enough, compared to StarCraft, where you can make units really quickly. Like, the build times were not nearly as fast in Warcraft 3 as they were in StarCraft. So this game was just completely different from that regard. And this is why this game appealed to me, because I am a person who really loves the micro element of RTS games, and this is why MOBAs have appealed to me so much. Is they're all about micro, that is literally what a MOBA is all about, is micro. There is no macro. You don't control a base. You don't have workers. You don't have other units you control, generally speaking. It's usually just one character, so that's why those games are so appealing to me. But this game, with that mechanic, it kind of took it and ran. The whole game centers around it, because in the campaigns, you're given a main character that you follow the story of, and that is your hero for the campaign. Yeah. And that hero levels up every single scenario. So it almost has like a pseudo RPG element to it, where you'll play 9 campaign scenarios and you'll gain a level every single one of those. So the first scenario, you'll be able to get to level 2. The second one, you'll get to level 3. The third one, you get to level 4, etc., all the way till the final one where you can get to level 10. And the character at that point is extremely powerful and, really hard to kill. And they did some interesting things in the campaign where they kind of had these side quests you could do during missions that were completely unrelated from your main objective, and you would get rewards for doing them, like an RPG where somebody would give you money, or they might give you units to use or something like that, and the items you could take with you in the next scenario. So it was such a different design philosophy from StarCraft's campaign, where StarCraft's campaign was insular maps. It was one map, and the map was the map, and you didn't take anything with you to the next map. It was just, you had to beat the map, and it was a challenge. So that was a really dynamic element to this game that I think was really appealing to a lot of people, and why the campaign I think is so good in Warcraft 3. So, but the reason this game is important though is not because of the campaigns, not because of what it did for the RTS genre. It's because of the custom game functionality, and that functionality is what spawned Dota. Dota came out of Warcraft 3. Like, if you don't know that, look it up because it's 100% true. Like, Dota was actually made, because everybody knows Ice Frog, right? It actually wasn't made by Ice Frog. He took it over a few years after it had been made by these guys. I think one of them was named Goinsu, and I forget the other guy's name. There was another guy. But those two guys got hired by Riot at some point in time, and they went on to help make League of Legends.
Okay, so they still did contribute to the culture after that.
Yes. It's a hilarious story because, the two biggest competing MOBAs were basically made by people that made Dota, essentially. And Dota started in Reign of Chaos. It wasn't super good in that point in time. I liked it a lot personally, but it was a really simple game. The heroes really only used abilities that were within the Warcraft 3 engine already.
Okay.
They basically made combinations of abilities that were different from the traditional heroes within the game. But by the time we got to Frozen Throne, the expansion, that's where Dota All-Stars came out, and this is where things started getting crazy, where they really started making their own abilities and things that were not within Warcraft 3, and they made the unique characters that are in Dota now. A lot of those like I would say 90% of the characters in Dota 2 come from Dota All-Stars, the original version in Warcraft 3. So this game was extremely important. It spawned the MOBA genre, right? Like many of us, and I'm one of these people, remember days and days and days and days of our lives playing Dota in Warcraft 3. I would just queue up. Like, you couldn't even queue into games. It was so cumbersome. You had to like find a match of Dota with the specific matchmake settings that you wanted, like all random or all pick or random draft or whichever mode you wanted to play. You needed to like go through the list and find which one you wanted to play. It wasn't even like easy to do, but dude, the game was so fun that we all did it anyways,
Yeah.
So, but it wasn't just MOBAs. Like, this spawned tower defense, the tower defense genre. Yep. That wouldn't exist without Warcraft 3 either.
So the tower defense genres are very popular in cell phone games.
Yes, mobile games. Right.
You just set up a base, you get some gold, and waves of enemies come at you. And you just have to defend the tower for however long that turn, level, whatever it is. I really liked those games when they first came out, especially when they were on Flash and things of that nature. So It's pretty cool that this game started that whole genre.
Yeah, and I would probably say even wave defense in general probably came out of Warcraft 3 custom games.
Okay, gotcha.
Like concepts like Horde mode and stuff, like those are things that were in Warcraft 3 custom maps. Obviously, it wasn't a shooter, but it had those concepts in there where you're fighting waves and waves of enemies with various resources or buildings or units types that you had to kind of survive like 30 waves or something like that. So
what you're telling me is like the custom maps weren't just like Halo custom games. This was almost the entirely engine they gave to you that you can just do. Well,
there was a vibrant sub community within Warcraft 3.
Yeah, like this is almost,
and like I told you before, this engine had its own like coding language in it, and it wasn't super powerful, but it was powerful enough that you could make something like Dota in it,
Yeah.
And that is insanely impressive. And they had these things called triggers, which were basically little ways to do scripting within the engine and do it in a really easy way where you didn't have to like know really complicated code languages and stuff. So the game was that part of the game is honestly more influential than anything that came out of Warcraft 3. As much as I love the actual game itself and the RTS elements of it, the RTS genre largely died after Warcraft 3 came out. Like I can't even think of a notable RTS to come out after Warcraft 3 besides maybe StarCraft 2 or because Command & Conquer at that point Command & Conquer 4 was terrible. That came out in 2010. Yeah. I think I don't remember when Command & Conquer 3 came out or Generals came out. I think it was around the time Warcraft 3 came out. Age of Mythology, I think, came out around this time. Rise of Nations was another one.
Yeah, 2009.
2003.
2003. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, another popular RTS that came and went was Halo Wars. Like that one kind of shook up the console game.
That one didn't. I don't think that one had a lasting impact though. I'm just thinking of ones that were like really big. Age of Mythology is probably the biggest of the bunch. Command and Conquer Generals was pretty big as well. But by and large, though, the RTS genre basically, like, by the time 2010 rolled around, I think the genre was dead, personally. I think it's been dead for about a decade, like 10 years, because nobody makes these games anymore, and the rise of the MOBA has basically nullified any interest in the RTS genre because RTS games are just naturally harder because you have to control so much.
Yeah,
you have to control base and keep up with your resources and how much money you have and stuff. MOBAs is so much simpler in that regard. And I know that's hilarious to say for somebody who's always touting how complicated Dota is, but the truth is, like, they MOBAs pale in comparison to RTS games, in my opinion, because you don't have to think about counters to specific units. Like, your opponent's building like 3 different units, and you need to make counters to all 3 of those units and build your adjust your build order in order to be able to make those units in time to fight them. Like, you're only thinking about your hero and how it relates to the other heroes within the game, you know? So
yeah.
I think it's a lot more complicated, and the barrier to entry there is much higher as a result. So this game is very important. It's a really important game in the PC space. But I don't know. This is just like I said, it's one of my favorite games, and the fact that this has come out in such a horrific state is just, it's an indictment of Blizzard in a way even Diablo Immortal's announcement wasn't, you know?
Yeah, because Diablo Immortal wasn't nullifying the whole entire game. You can still go back and play Diablo 1, Diablo 2, Diablo 3.
Right.
This, from what I understand, nullified the original Warcraft 3. Like,
yeah, it did. And, dude, it's not just that. I mean, this game introduced bugs that didn't exist, you know? Like, as I said, I've been playing with the Reforged graphics, and the game is buggy as hell, as all hell. Like, sounds don't play, like unit sounds don't play sometimes randomly out of nowhere. There's a lot of frame rate dropping for me, and I have like a top end computer basically right now, and I'm seeing frame rate drops within the main menu, which I told you before we started is apparently a Chrome web app. It's based on a Chrome web app, like the main menu for the game, and that's why it runs really bad. So I think performance in general is just really poor. And then there's little things like the shadows are gone within the original version of the game. Like the classic version of the game doesn't have shadows for NPC units.
Yeah.
It has it for your own, but not like units you can't control. And it's completely weird that is broken, and you cannot turn on shadows unless you buy Reforged.
What?
Yeah. It's like locked in the menu. It's grayed out. You can't even touch it because
so they intentionally downgraded the game so you can buy.
I don't think it was I don't want to be tinfoil hat and say it was intentional. I really don't think it was intentional.
Okay.
I just think it was such a, I don't know. I think there's so few people on this is that they just didn't have time for all the shit, you know, and it came out in a really bad release state. I mean, the fact that there's no ranked ladder out of the gate is just horrible. I can't believe that. A game that already had ranked ladder, has had ranked ladder for 17 years, doesn't have ranked ladder. You know, like what? Like the people are joking about this and calling this Warcraft 3 Deforged or Demaster, and it's legitimately true though. Like things are taken out of the game, they're gone. Like there are things that aren't there and things that don't work well, and it's like really off-putting to me that they would release this game in this state, you know? Warcraft 3, one of Blizzard's most important games, and they fucking just... I mean, dude, didn't I tell you this before? Like, remember when we were talking about BlizzCon this past year in 2019, right?
Yeah.
And I told you how weird it was that they didn't even mention Warcraft 3 Reforged on stage.
Well, it makes sense now.
Yeah, and it does make sense now because they basically hid this game and they didn't talk about this. So let's go through the series of events like you were talking about from BlizzCon 2018 because they announced this game in BlizzCon 2018 along with Diablo Immortal. People were in this game got really overshadowed by Diablo Immortal. That the reaction to that was so vitriolic that I don't think anybody even cared about Warcraft 3 Reforged, except for us diehards. So, Blizzard announced at that point in time that they were going to be redoing like all the cinematics in the game, and they showed us an example of the Strathholm mission, the sixth mission in the human campaign. It's one of the most iconic missions in the game. It's one of the most memorable ones in the game, and the scene that they showed is one of the most memorable ones in the game. And they did a really good job with it. They made it much more movie-like, where the camera angles are kind of zooming in on characters, and characters are emoting and Uther points at Arthas at one point in time, whereas he doesn't do that at all in the regular game. So it was much more cinematic in its quality, and they said they were endeavoring to make all of the cinematic cutscenes like that, and that was exciting for me, and I think a lot of other people, based off the reaction to this game. And that was just one thing, though. They showed a different interface, and they said they were going to be making some changes. They were going to try to preserve the game as much as possible, but what that means is, though, you can make improvements to Warcraft 3. Warcraft 3 wasn't a perfect game. It doesn't hold up 100% now. It's got some issues, and particularly in the story and even the way the game controls. It does not play super well on modern monitor resolutions, and the interface is not the greatest either. Like, it could be streamlined, and they showed a version of the interface is actually in the game in Warcraft 3 and is in Reforged now, and that is nowhere to be seen. They just took it out of the game. So they announced all that. They announced the game, and they talk about it, and they say they're going to make some changes to the story in order to kind of line it up with World of Warcraft a little bit, and they want to change a lot of the maps to line them up with the World of Warcraft versions of locations, which I don't have a problem with. I thought it was a cool idea, and if they were going to manage to preserve the original version of the game, I don't really care, right? If I didn't like it, I could just go play original Warcraft 3, right?
Yeah.
Which, is a reasonable thing. But then they go radio silent this game for literal calendar year. They did not talk about this game publicly one single time until BlizzCon 2019. And then, like I said, it wasn't on the stage. They didn't even mention it on stage. And they had a very short 45-minute panel during BlizzCon talking about it. And this is where the red flags started to pop up for me. And I started to get a lot less excited about this game because they talked about how they walked back the story change stuff, and they didn't say any of this publicly at all. And what they cited is that they got a lot of negative feedback from players about this, and they decided not to change the story or redo cutscenes because, quote, they wanted to, maintain the original spirit of Warcraft 3. When this came out, I was really upset about it, and I mentioned it on this podcast that I was really upset that a vocal minority would change this, get Blizzard to change their minds on this and kind of ruin this potential game for people. And I do want to, kind of apologize for that because that is not what I think actually happened now. Because I told you this. I did some research last week after this game came out. I went to the Blizzard forums for Warcraft 3 Reforged, and I went all the way back to November 2018 when the forum was created, and I scrolled down through November 2018 and December 2018, 2 straight months after the reveal, and I found dozens of threads talking about story changes and how people didn't want them. I only found a single thread, though, that had more than 100 comments on it. I found one, and it had 190 comments, and it had maybe a couple thousand likes on it, and that was it. That was the best I could find, the most I could find, and that is not a lot of people, dude. 190 people. And honestly, if you go into that thread, you can find this thread, guys. It's still there. Go look for it. 190 replies. I forget the name of it exactly, but if you read through the thread, there was a lot of back and forth kind of arguing the merits of this, whether people wanted it or not. There was not a unanimous,
it wasn't
hyper negative opinion about this. So the fact that Blizzard would come out and be like, oh, the fans, didn't want us to change things. Like, they're basically using the fans as scapegoats. And I think I don't know. This is really hard to like, because I'm going to start speculating because this is what I believe happened. I don't know what caused this, but I think after BlizzCon 2018, something happened, whether they decided, because hold on, I have a thread here of somebody did some tinfoil hat kind of theory crafting, and there's a series of events that happens. So the game gets announced, right?
Yeah.
And they put up pre-orders, and then do you remember what happened after this? So here they canceled Heroes of the Storm esports, basically.
Yeah,
and
I do remember that.
They've basically been slowly but surely winding this game down, I think, until they're going to kill it eventually. They haven't done it yet, but I'm sure we're getting there. Then Activision Blizzard fired 800 people. You remember that? Got rid of 8% of their workforce.
Yeah.
You remember that? And now all 800 of those were not Blizzard employees, but I think about 100 of them were, and they were like PR and marketing and stuff like that.
So wait, they got so what were the other 700 people that were let go?
They were in Activision proper, amongst their various studios.
Okay.
So, the ones that make Call of Duty and shit. And then, third thing that happened, I didn't know about this until I started reading about this, but apparently NetEase said their part of Diablo Immortal was finished in March 2019, and we have heard hide nor hair about this game since that moment. And they're basically, I think they've put this game in a closet until they feel comfortable enough to actually release it without a blowback.
I was wondering about that game.
And we've heard nothing about it. And they did officially say that it is indefinitely delayed. So I don't know if it's actually ever going to come out at this point. But so that happened. And then Blizzard, remember this, Jason Schreier reported that Blizzard canceled a StarCraft FPS to focus on Diablo 4 and Overwatch 2, which seems really true now that we know Diablo 4 and Overwatch 2 are real and they're coming out in the next couple of years.
So do you think, and I'm just speculating here, maybe this is where you're going with it,
mm-hmm.
but I ain't mean to cut you off, but
no, go ahead. I'm talking a lot, so.
Do you think that since you had the Diablo fiasco, the Heroes of the Storm fiasco,
right.
And I think you mentioned another fiasco that happened. Oh, the laying canceling off of the cancellation.
Well, yeah, laying off the employees and then canceling the StarCraft FPS.
And then I'm assuming the China thing is going to be next after all those things.
Well, yeah, so Blitzchung was next, probably.
Okay.
That was the one in October where they banned Blitzchung, and then they had the blowback from that. And then they delayed a Diablo Immortal in November 2019. I think this came from BlizzCon, this news. They didn't say it during the conference, but I think one of the panels.
It was on the panels.
It was probably one of the panels, like the Diablo 4 panel.
So what I'm thinking is they wanted to double down on their big money makers. They knew Diablo 4 was going to be their money maker. They knew that Overwatch 2 was going to be their money maker.
Right.
So what I think happened, they couldn't cancel Reforged because they already announced it, and they knew that it's a big deal because it's a Warcraft IP, whereas StarCraft has been on ice, let's be honest, for about 10 years, almost 10 years now.
The last release was 2016, Legacy of the Void.
Like I said, almost 10 years now.
So, I know. I want to play that at some point, someday.
Me too, but like I said, it was 10 years now. The last one I played was Wings of Liberty. Yeah. So what I think is they pulled everyone off StarCraft, that thing, to work on whether it be Overwatch or Diablo. And I think they did the same thing for Warcraft Reforged. I think they pulled everyone off that team and then left like maybe 15 to 20 people to do its bidding. And that was it.
This is what I think the same thing, and it's really obvious that that's probably what happened. Whether the reasoning is correct or not, I don't know, but it's really obvious there's very few people working on this game. Just based on what we've talked about so far, but there's more than that indicates the same thing. And this person's tinfoil hat theory, the Reddit post that I'm referencing, believes that Diablo Immortal's negative reception is the reason why they took. They make a connection that Diablo Immortal, like they thought it was so negative that they needed to really get a win and put people on Diablo 4 and Overwatch 2. It's basically the same way to get to different ways to get to the same conclusion.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So But yeah, for me, whatever the reasoning is, I think they took people off Warcraft Reforged fucking immediately after they announced this game. Like within a month, I feel like they gutted whatever team was there and they gave it to really inexperienced developers. Because I'm gonna well, I guess I'll just say it now. I saw another Reddit post where a actual developer, not for the game, but for like in general, like he develops software, and he uploaded not uploaded, but he described the file that marks your campaign progress is apparently just it's like a readable text file that you can edit, and you can change the values in the file and just give yourself the portrait rewards for beating the campaigns. You don't have to play the game at all. Like if you put the right value in, you can automatically just unlock all the unlockables without playing the game at all. And he said this is basically really amateur shit, essentially, because they didn't encrypt the file at all. It's not hidden anywhere. The game writes directly to it and reads directly from it, so that's why you can change it and it works. And he said that he lost the reason he found this out is because his game crashed when his game was saving, like after a mission, and he lost his campaign progress. And he basically copied his friend's campaign file over into his directory, and it worked, which he said should not be possible. Like, that kind of thing should never work. So that kind of stuff is like shows that they have some pretty either incompetent developers on this game or amateur developers, like really, really young, probably like fresh out of college. And that, with the idea that they don't have very many people on it too, is such a... I feel like old Blizzard would have canceled this game, after they made that decision. Like, they would have canceled. They would have waited like 8 months into July of 2019 and been like, unfortunately, we've had to cancel development on Warcraft 3 Reforged. It's just not working the way we wanted to. We didn't want to, make a bad game, and it wasn't coming together the way we'd hoped. Something along those lines, right? That would have been fine. If they had done that, that would have been fine, dude. I wouldn't have had a problem with it. It would have been disappointing, yes, and I think it would have been disappointing to a lot of people because I would love Warcraft. I love the idea of Warcraft 3 getting exposed to the masses, but if it's going to ruin Warcraft 3, I don't want it, right? So I would have been okay with that, but they didn't do that. What Activision decided to do, and Blizzard, and who knows where this came from. A lot of people are blaming Activision for this. I do blame Activision to an extent. I think Blizzard is clearly culpable as well. I feel like their leadership is just really in Activision's pocket at this point.
Yeah.
But whatever the case, they didn't have very many resources on this game. They outsourced which we haven't mentioned yet, they outsourced the model creation to a studio called Lemon Sky, who are actually, like, they've done a lot of good stuff for a lot of other games, and they're actually working on Command & Conquer Remaster right now for EA. They're working on the models for that as well. These guys seem to have a niche, kind of making models for old games, like remaking models for old games. And it's just interesting that they outsourced that. It looks like they took developers off the game, or it feels like they took developers off the game. And then, because, dude, I just don't understand what they were doing while this game was in development. It doesn't feel like they did very much at all. Because when you think about what they showed us Stratholme, the Stratholme mission, which they completely redesigned, and it's a different map from the original version of it. You come in from the south of Stratholme rather than the northeast, which is where it was in the original version of Warcraft 3. Yeah. They changed that map, and apparently there's 2 other maps that they significantly changed in the game. And that, that's kind of indicative to me that they had done some work, and they didn't want to undo said work, and they just kind of left it in there, but stopped, like in the middle of development. Like cutscenes were different. Somebody found the original version of the cutscene, the Stratholme cutscene that they showed at BlizzCon. People found that within the game files, and it's the only thing there, like in the folder it's in, which indicates to me that they only had made that one for BlizzCon, and they just kind of abandoned it after that. They didn't do any more,
Yeah. So just to give you a little bit more clarity on the Lemon Sky Studios, these guys have been doing a lot of work. They mainly did prop creation for a lot of the games, but if you like the newest expansion for, they also do concept art. And if you like the newest expansion for Final Fantasy 14, not only did they do the assets for that, but they did the monsters, the monster animations, the weapons, and the armor. So we all know that that's a top tier MMO.
No, these guys are good.
Yeah,
they're good at their jobs.
Yeah, these guys are really good at their job, like you said. So this isn't like a rinky-dink like third-party studio that no one really gives a shit about. These guys have a lot of big names under, like Gears of War 5.
Like I said, they're working on the Command & Conquer remaster right now too.
Yeah, Spider-Man, Tekken 7. They did the character animation, some of the character animations for Tekken 7. So I mean,
wow.
So these guys know what they're doing. So for them to be like, I don't know if you said it yet, because I was listening, but I was also researching this too. But yeah, they had to come out and kind of protect their reputation, like, guys.
So these guys went on the Reddit for Warcraft 3 on Saturday, and they actually made a post to talk to the community. And this is something I've not seen before, because they've basically, by doing this, torpedoed their relationship with Blizzard at this point, but they didn't seem to care because they're done with the work they were doing on Reforged, essentially. And they answered a lot of questions about what the fuck happened. It was a really interesting thread to read, and a lot of people asked them about specific units, like what happened with certain units and stuff like that. And they literally said that they got concept art from Blizzard, and they made it to Blizzard specifications, and they would send it to Blizzard, and then Blizzard would evaluate the assets and tell them to make changes and to, adjust this, adjust that. But ultimately, the final product that Blizzard accepted was on Blizzard, whatever came from it. So I do want to talk about the models, because this is what you're buying Reforged for, basically, essentially, is the models. And a lot of the models, it is really inconsistent. It's really hit and miss whether the models are good or not, in my opinion. I think there's a lot of models that look great in the game, and I just think the problem is I showed you this before we started recording, when in the game, is I showed you the old version of Warcraft 3 and the one that they have released now, and dude, it's just the art styles are so disparate. There's such a huge difference between them. The original version of Warcraft 3 is cartoony, goofy, vibrant, has really distinct colors and a really distinct style. Units really stick out from each other. Whereas with Reforged, and this is a huge problem for this, and I think the game is going to be unplayable in Reforged for a lot of people because of this, is there's just not nearly that level of distinctness with it.
There's a lot of color saturation. That's the word I was looking for earlier.
It doesn't have good color saturation, and a lot of the units just kind of, when you're in a giant battle is happening, I started noticing this last night when I was playing. Dude, it's really hard to pick units out of the pile, as it were.
It's not distinct.
No, they don't pop the way they did before, and it's I couldn't tell the difference, because a specific example I want to give is the undead have these units called necromancers, and they can raise skeletons from corpses, and they also have this unit called ghouls, which is their basic melee unit. And ghouls and the skeletons, I could not tell the difference between the two. I literally couldn't pick them out of a crowd. I was because humans have priests, which have an ability called Dispel Magic, and if you use it on a summoned unit, it does damage to that unit, and it kills skeletons in one shot, the skeleton warriors. So I was trying to destroy the skeleton warriors with Dispel, but I was literally guessing where they were, because I just couldn't tell the difference between them and the ghouls. It was that they just blend together in the heat of battle. So it's a really unfortunate thing that I don't think I can play the game like this, because I might play the campaign this way, but I'm not going to be able to play online this way, because you literally can't tell where things are, and it's just it's so jarring, dude, that to play this game and feel that way. It's because it's the exact opposite with the original version of Warcraft 3. It is not like that at all. I never had issues picking units out of a crowd. It's I mean, maybe combat would get so hectic that I would lose things, but it wasn't because of the visuals. You know, it was because I wasn't able to keep up. You know?
Yeah.
And it's like, so that combined with the fact that the units themselves are really off, like they just don't look like Warcraft. They don't have that goofy aesthetic. It looks really realistic. And I don't know why they did that, because WoW doesn't have that aesthetic, you know?
Do you think they were trying to, with this Reforged, they're trying to reshape how they want to do WoW in general?
I don't think so. Why would they do that? Warcraft is iconic for this. This is literally what Warcraft is, man. It's a cartoony fantasy game, you know?
Yeah, and I get that. It's just that when I look at the graphics, it looks like the people who did Reforged wanted to go more realistic instead of more stylized.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, and they should have made a new game then, because that's not what Warcraft 3 is, and it just doesn't work for this game, dude. It doesn't look right. And I showed you this animation speed of the units. This is a huge problem for me too with Reforged, is like the units, they move at the same speed they do in the normal game, but the animations are running so slowly that it looks like everything's in slow motion.
Yeah, it looks like they're floating across the ground.
Right. It looks like they're kind of gliding across the ground, and then they have like, they kind of sort of are moving like a person, but it's really slow looking.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't look realistic for the amount of distance they're covering. Whereas the original game, I showed you like Arthas running around, and he's like super energetic. You know, it's like really like high energy and like really fast animations. And I think part of the problem here is that the units are apparently running at 20 frames per second compared to the game, which is, you know, obviously running at 60 or higher.
Yes.
And that is making it really jarring. And it's like the game just looks really sluggish because of that, because the units just don't move very fast. And there's no like, it just makes the game really unsatisfying to play too, because of that. Because in combat, when you're in the middle of a fight, dude, like the units move so slowly that you don't feel like they're like moving fast enough, even though they're moving normally. It just doesn't look right, and it doesn't feel right, you know. And it just doesn't play right to me. And another thing with the combat that's been throwing me off a lot is, this is another example of them abandoning this game really quickly, is apparently they recorded new death sounds for a lot of the units in the game, and they're in Reforged. Like, they're in the game. And they didn't overwrite the original death sounds, but they're mixed in with the original death sounds of the units. So when an orc dies, there's 3 different death sounds that they play now instead of 1. And
so are they playing at the same time, or is it just random which one it chooses?
It's random which one it chooses.
Okay.
But the thing is, these new death sounds are so bad. This is like audio cues, you know, like with like Sekiro, right? You were talking about?
Yeah.
Is when you hear a grunt die or a ghoul die in Warcraft 3, I remember those noises. Those noises are really distinct sounds that you can hear. Now, they don't sound like anything, dude. Like, maybe it's just that I'm not used to them yet, but I don't think so. It's because they like, before when a grunt died, he would go, like it was really obnoxious and like but it fit Warcraft, you know. Now it's when a grunt dies, it's like, you know, it's just a grunt. Like, he's just grunting, and the footmen do the same thing. The ghouls do the same thing. It's like a really quick noise, you know. There's no high pitch to it or anything like that, and there's nothing to pick it out from a crowd of other noises, you know? Yeah. So it's like you're losing all of these things that help you understand what's going on in the battle, and it's making it really hard to play the game as a result. And it sucks because this affects the sound thing that I just mentioned affects the classic graphical version of Warcraft 3.
Really? So
those sounds are going to be there if you play the game with the old graphics too. So the game is this now. Like, this is the game, you know? And it's fucking blows. It's like I'm like, people are legitimately pirating the fucking game because they want to play the old game the way it played, you know? But they can't play online though because it's gone.
You can't play the custom maps or anything like that.
Yeah, so they fucked it all up.
Yeah, why don't you explain the custom maps and why the custom maps are fucked up now?
Well, dude, you talking about the EULA?
Yes.
Or the EULA agreement?
Because some of our listeners don't know why the custom maps are fucked up. Like, why can't you just go back and play the custom maps? You know, I don't understand why.
Well, I mentioned this earlier. They don't work, a lot of the old maps, right?
Yeah. So why don't they work? If you know any knowledge about that.
I don't know exactly why, but I'm assuming some of the game files changed and
Okay,
things changed
gotcha.
within the game, and it's probably has to do with the assets changing because obviously custom maps use the Warcraft 3 assets a lot of the time. So the
Yeah.
assets changing and things changing with the assets breaks the maps
Gotcha.
as a result.
Gotcha.
You know, certain parts of these maps. So that's my assumption with it. But talking about the EULA, they apparently added a clause in there saying that they basically own any custom map that you make in Warcraft 3's editor. It's their property.
You can guess why, guys.
Right, and we talked about this. They're still butthurt that they let Dota get away. And, you know, they got to make sure that another Dota never happens, you know? So this is a bad, I don't know, this one's a bad look. Obviously, I don't really think it matters that much. A lot of people have been saying this doesn't really change anything. The old EULA had a very similar wording to it,
Okay.
I guess, but I don't really care about that as much. It matters. I think if people don't make custom maps, then obviously this game's dead anyways. But it probably doesn't matter at this point anyways. I think this game is legitimately dead, period. Like, if they don't fix this soon, I don't think this game has a shelf life longer than a month or two, you know? To me, I just don't think the online community is going to stick around, like, you know? Because the old players are pissed. The new players think this game sucks because it runs like shit. There's no ladders. Like, you can't even play online games because people get dropped and disconnected because the fucking online infrastructure is so shitty for this game right now. So,
yeah, I thought this was going to be a rebirth of RTS games. Like, I thought this was going to drive, because it looks like it had a lot of steam. Like, a lot of people.
This was my hope. That was my hope.
And I mean, I'm a new player, but I'm probably gonna play on when I do buy it, if it goes on sale or some shit like that. Like, I'm gonna play on the classic mode, but there are gonna be a lot of people like me who didn't grow up with those kind of graphics, and they're not gonna want to play on the classic mode. They want to play on the Reforged mode.
Right. I think a lot of people aren't gonna think it looks good.
Exactly. You know.
And it doesn't look. I don't think it looks great.
It doesn't. It doesn't look. The classic mode doesn't look bad. Like, it looks more animated and cartoony to me. Mm-hmm. That's why I know Warcraft as.
Right.
But like I said, if you're going into it totally like fresh, you're gonna play with the Reforged graphics because you don't know what this looks like. And my opinion is this has already been done. Like, a lot of people may say like, well, it's fucking hard to do, you know, run two things at once. It's already been done. It's been done on 360. The 360, they remade Halo 1 with the existing game on top of it.
Right.
Where they made with updated graphics, and you can literally switch the game while playing. You can switch between new graphics and old graphics if you want.
Which is what Blizzard said you'd be able to do with this game, and you cannot do that.
And you cannot. When he was showing me you had to quit the game entirely if you're playing on the Reforged mode, and then go back to the old mode, and vice versa. Another thing is your saves.
They're not compatible with each other.
And that's wild to me.
You can't play it. You can't start the campaign with classic graphics and save it and then switch to Reforged graphics and continue that same campaign. You have to start your whole new campaign, which is fucking insane. Do the same thing with different graphics. I think this is just legitimately a fuck up. Like, I think somebody just didn't, like, I just think they didn't enable that functionality for whatever reason. They made them separate file types, and they obviously the game doesn't recognize one is the same as the other, you know. So it's like I can't even understand that one.
Man. I don't know how to put this in perspective for you guys. Like, I don't know, say if you're playing a classic game like, fuck it, I don't know, like Kingdom Hearts 2 or some shit. And let's just say, for instance, that yes, it came out on a PlayStation 2 platform, but you were able to put your save files on PlayStation 3 or some shit like that. So, and Square Enix tells you, like, hey, you can know if you play critical mode on Kingdom Hearts 2 in your old games, you can do it in your new games. So you're like, yeah, fuck yeah. You move all your stuff. You got all the keyblades. You got all the stuff and everything like that nature. And then you load up your game, and Kingdom Hearts 3 2.5 remastered or whatever fucking comes out and deletes everything. How shitty would you feel? Like, you would feel like all my work is done. Right. All my work is like gone. And a lot of people keep these old game files. I have old games that I would love to go back and play that I've completed, 100% completed. And I just like to go back and play them because I don't have to do nothing. I just have to have fun. And I'm like, man, I completed this game. and I like to play it, and I like to just play it.
Mm-hmm.
Players can't do that. They can't relive that. And yeah, you can argue it's nostalgia, but that's the whole point of the game. Like, I want to go back and replay my nostalgia. If you have from what you were telling me, if you have the disc, the original Warcraft 3 disc, you cannot even play that game. I mean, you can play it, but you'll be playing the new version.
You'd have to pirate the update that like was before Reforged was in order to play the campaign, not off of the disc, because the disc version of the campaigns are not like obviously as good as the ones that are patched.
Yeah.
So you'd have to pirate the patch somehow, and you have to make sure you do not connect to BattleNet. The second you connect to BattleNet, the game will update you to Reforged. That's what happens. It's fucking crazy, man. And there's a bunch of other little things too. It's just like old bugs that were in the original game. They didn't fix them. A lot of voice lines are broken. Like, they don't play sometimes when you click on units, when you give units orders, they don't play. They made dozens of little changes to the campaigns, like cutscenes and things. They changed some voice lines where I told you this yesterday, I think, that Grom Hellscream, no one refers to him as Grom. They all say Hellscream for some reason, and I can't for the life of me fucking fathom why.
Yeah.
I don't. What is offensive about Grom? I don't know.
Maybe it's offensive in another language. It's too close to another word in another language.
I don't fucking know, dude. I mean, why do you have to change that in English though? Change it in the other language. It's another thing they did that's really fucked up. So they didn't change the voice lines for the English version of the game. Apparently, they redubbed all the voices in all the other languages though, like all the non-English languages. Like, they changed all the voice actors and like redid the lines. Yeah, what the fuck? They went through the effort of relocalizing the game in all the other languages, and they didn't do English. And people are actually pissed about this because the original versions of those other languages aren't in the game. You can't play the game with them. So
yeah, and they probably grew up on those original versions of the game.
Exactly. The same way I quote these lines, they probably quoted the lines in their language as well, and now those voice actors are all gone, and you can't play the game with those voice lines. And it's like, how could you do that to people, dude? Like, you literally are taking shit away instead of giving them new shit. Like, you are giving them something new, but you're doing it at the cost of something else.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's not what was promised here. They said that you would be able to play the original game in the original form it was in, the campaigns in the original form, and that is not fucking true. It's completely false. Like, they fucking lied. And I don't like I hate getting to this point, but I'm starting to bubble up now because this is just fucking bullshit. Why did it have to happen to this fucking game? This game. Like, it's like, I mean, I don't want it to happen to any fucking game, but it's like one of the best games ever made, and you fucking destroy it like this? Like, you're the ones who fucking made this game. How are you so oblivious to your own legacy that you don't fucking realize how important this game is? Like, that's where Blizzard is now. They don't even get this.
Their legacy now is Overwatch.
Dude, we were talking about this earlier when we were at lunch. Fucking Square Enix gets this better than Blizzard does.
They do.
Final Fantasy XIV came out and was a fucking trash heap. It was a piece of shit. That game was awful. It was terrible. So what did Square Enix do? They fucking fixed it. They spent 2 years of extra development into that game, put into that game to fix it and make it Final Fantasy XIV, A Realm Reborn. And guess what? It's one of the most successful MMOs to ever exist now because they put the effort in to fix it and make it a good game. Why did they do that? Because they understand the value of IP. They couldn't let the Final Fantasy brand be tarnished by something like this, and Blizzard doesn't give a fuck. What did I say earlier? Warcraft is their most important IP, and they just released this piece of poop. Like,
I think it's a Western thing, man. I think it's a Western thing. I think developers in the West don't value their IPs as much as like other developers, right? I mean, of course, you got like there are rare developers like Rockstar and CD Projekt Red who understand the value of their IPs. They understand they released a fucked up Grand Theft Auto 7 or 6 rather that no one's probably not going to buy Grand Theft Auto 7 because that 6 was same with like the Witcher games and for
Mhm.
CD Projekt Red and things of that nature and Cyberpunk. If this is their first game in that franchise, and they're like, if we fuck this up, we fuck a lot of shit up.
Right.
But then you got games like BioWare or companies like BioWare who release fucked up states of Mass Effect who don't understand the importance of these franchises.
Yeah.
They barely got away with Dragon Age. They release Anthem, even though Anthem's a new IP, they release it in a fucked up state. Whereas Square Enix, even though we don't like Final Fantasy 15, me and you personally, there are a lot of people who are like, man, this game, it came back from the brink of death because, boy, I tell you, that shit was ass when it was first released. But then, like, these are other people's opinions on those games. Even Final Fantasy 13, that had a negative reception, but they just kept at it. Lightning Returns, Final Fantasy 13 2. Like, these were better games than the original Final Fantasy 13. That it didn't leave a bad taste in people's mouths. I think a lot of people want to point to that and be like, hey, but when you go back and play 13 2 and 13 Lightning Returns, people are like, well, those games were good. So they, like you said, they do value that. Even with their Western IPs, right? You got Deus Ex and Tomb Raider. Square Enix knows how to make the companies under them like, hey, these are really good IPs, don't fuck it up. Because we all thought Tomb Raider, when it got remade, it was going to be a disaster heap, but they remade that into a really good game. I just don't understand why Blizzard doesn't get it. They just don't understand the concept of value.
Like, are they so strapped for money and personnel that they couldn't put 30 people on this game?
I honestly don't.
Because I legitimately think they
man.
have 5 fucking people working on this game.
I think you were right when you said it off mic. I think it's more so Activision now. We haven't seen the remnants of Activision, but now it's at the forefront. You know what I'm saying? Like,
we talked about this in our first episode. We talked about Blizzard, and I think Activision's influence is obvious in Blizzard over the last 10 to 12 years. You know, with the fact that basically every game they've released since the merger has had microtransactions in some form or another. That's proof enough that they've had an influence on Blizzard in some way, right? But I think, like, in this particular case, I think we're at the point now, though, that Activision and Blizzard are one entity. There is no difference between the two of them. The studio that is Blizzard is Activision. They fuck up just as bad as Activision would, you know?
Well, we gotta think too. Think of all the leadership that left Blizzard, that really cared about the games, that grew up with, that started the company, or
Warhame, Pardo.
Yeah, I think it was about 4 or 5 like influential lead designers and
a lot
directors.
of the company leadership from back in the 90s is gone. They're all gone now for the most part.
Yeah, a lot of them just retired because they just want to live their lives.
Yeah, but Warhame is the biggest one. He stepped down 2.5 years ago, and I think a lot of people. He didn't really say why, and I think this is what's happened since that moment really kind of paints a picture of why he left, is that things were going in a direction where he could no longer control Blizzard himself. Activision was exerting too much control, probably. Yeah. He just didn't want to do it anymore. That's my assumption, is I just think he was done, and he didn't want to watch this company get burned any more than it already had, and now it's a fucking flaming husk of what it used to be, you know? The fact that I can't play Warcraft 3 in its original form is just unbelievable to me. Like, I cannot believe that. It's wild that they could legitimately take a classic game and fucking ruin it, you know?
On purpose. Like, it was on purpose.
It's just it's so upsetting. It's like I said, this is the most upsetting thing that I can remember happening in the last decade, you know? Like,
yeah, because you talk about Warcraft 3 a lot.
I do. It's a really influential game for me as a gamer, and it's I realize how important it is to gaming as a whole, though. You know, we would not be where we are right now without this game, you know? And it's just so sad to see them just drag this game through the mud and ruin it, and now a bunch of people who were interested in it that had never played it before, like you, and even younger people who had never played, like, aren't big on RTS games, they're going to get turned off now by this. And even if Blizzard fixes it, it's never going to fix the fact that those people, they're not coming back, dude. They're not going to come back and play this game later unless they do something miraculous to turn this game around. I just don't. The only people who are going to play this game are diehards like me and the people that people like me know. I'm going to probably get you to play this game at some point, but it's just like, what could have been here, man? This could, like you said, this could have been the rebirth of the RTS genre. They could have really brought this back to the forefront, because I think, as much as I said MOBAs are easier to grasp and easier to play, that doesn't necessarily mean they're more fun than RTS games. RTS games have a place in the market, in my opinion, and I think I'm loath to say this, but I feel like Warcraft 3 could have been a game. Like, if they kept the original and left it alone and just basically remade Warcraft 3, they could have monetized this game the same way MOBAs are monetized. Release it as a free-to-play, and, dude, make skin packs for the heroes, for the units, for the buildings. You could easily do that. I don't necessarily want to see that, but I feel like in this modern day, that's kind of what I would have to accept for this to be a live service game. Like, I would be okay with that. If I had a Dota-esque model where the whole game is open to me and it's a really solid, awesome game, but they just had a bunch of cosmetics that you could buy, I'd be okay with that. Like, different versions of grunts and archers and footmen, and it's like,
to be honest, it works for Fortnite. I mean, Fortnite has a story mode
right,
that you have to pay like $10 to play. But
right,
they do it. They have the Save the World mode, and then they have the free Battle Royale mode, and
right,
it works.
And I don't even think you need to do that here. Just make the campaign free, part of the game. You don't even make people pay for it. Just do the cosmetics. And I mean, I don't know how people would probably be upset about it, but it's like, I think once they settle down and realize it doesn't affect their game that much, like, I think they'd be okay with it largely. But I don't know. It's just, now it's like, my hopes are dashed though with this. I don't like, RTSs are as dead as they've ever been. Like, they're deader now than they've ever been. Blizzard killed this genre even harder than it was already dead. It's like, they figured out a way to do that, and I can't even. I don't know. Like, dude, I haven't even gone through my whole list of things that are broken. So let's see. There's no music during cutscenes. Like I said, unit death sounds were added, which are not good. We didn't talk about this. So people have been trying to refund the game, obviously, because it's a piece of shit. Blizzard wasn't letting them for a while. And then all of a sudden they started letting people refund the last couple days, because I think a lot of people were threatening legal action. And they legitimately would have like a case here. I feel like
they would. In this case,
false
they would.
advertising.
Yeah.
And I think Blizzard got scared, so they started letting people automatically refund the game, regardless how much playtime you had. And some people are finding out that if you owned Classic Warcraft 3 prior to getting Reforged, and you pre-ordered Reforged, if you refund Reforged after the game came out, you apparently are losing your ability to play Classic because it was included in the pre-order. So They aren't keeping track of the fact that you had it prior to getting the game. So it's taking both away, and you can't play the game anymore, which is unbelievable. That is insanity. That's crazy, dude. Like, because they combined the clients together. They're one entity now, so they're combined together. If they hadn't done that, you'd be able to play your old version of the game. Other things, like I showed you prior to this, terrain looks worse in Reforged than it does in the original game. It's less vibrant, less detailed, which is fucking crazy for a game that's 17 years older. This isn't confirmed, but I've seen a lot of people say this, and I feel this way. I feel like unit pathfinding is worse. Like, it doesn't feel as good as it did before. It never felt great, but I somehow feel like it's not as good.
Okay.
Like I showed you too, unit portraits are really static. There's very little animation to them. They don't do much. Like I told you before this too, the main menu is apparently built as a Chrome web app, which is fucking crazy, and it runs like ass. Like, it's super stuttery and stuff. And another one. Health bars, they block your units. Like, you can't see them. They're like over your units.
Yeah, I did notice that.
It's so bad, dude. I hate it. Oh, it's so annoying. And then the user interface, they barely changed it, even though they showed like a version of it changed at BlizzCon last year, and it's the old interface, and it doesn't even stretch the entire length of the screen. So it's like just kind of in the middle of the screen, and it's really big and tall and obnoxious, and it's like it's all these things, man. It's all these little things. There's more stuff too, like they didn't even make models for everything that was in the game either. Like there are models that they didn't make models for. Like they didn't remake models for.
What do you mean?
They're units that were used in Reign of Chaos that aren't used in the Frozen Throne, and they didn't make models for those units because they're not used in the game anymore. But you could have used them in custom maps, and stuff like that. So they didn't remake those. They also made multiple versions of certain characters, but one of the main characters in the game, Malfurion, he has one model now where he is on a stag mount, which he was not on in the original version of Warcraft 3 until late in the campaign. Like it took some time before he got to that point. It's just fucking... It never ends. Like I said, the shadows are gone in the original game. Fog of War looks fucking weird.
Oh, yeah. It looks really blue.
It's super blue. What the fuck? It doesn't... It's like it obscures what you're supposed to see, too. Like for people that don't understand what I'm saying, like there's the black Fog of War that obscures view entirely. You can't see anything. But when you walk through the black and walk back out, it would like kind of show you like a grayed out version of what the landmass looked like. Yeah. Now it's like really blue. It's like super blue, and it's obnoxious as shit. It doesn't look good at all. It's just so frustrating.
But not only that, didn't you say cutscenes were missing? Like the whole bridge.
Yes. Right. There was this cutscene, and this has happened in multiple places, apparently. There's a moment in the game where a bridge collapses in one of the cutscenes, and that moment is not animated. So it just cuts to after the bridge collapsed. And it's like like you were watching it. You were watching it, and I told you to tell me what you think happened, and you were like, "What the fuck?" Like, and I was like, "Yeah, this bridge fell down into the water." And
I legitimately didn't know. Like, to put it in perspective for you, someone was defending a bridge with magic. She was like raining down like magic bolts on a wave hordes that were coming towards the bridge, and it was kind of panning around her, and without any flash, no screen cuts. I'm talking about mid while the
was a hard cut.
The bridge was gone. I'm like,
one frame she's there fighting the enemies. Then literally the next frame she's gone in the water and the bridge has collapsed.
Yeah, and I didn't know what happened. It took me a while for my brain to register at the bridge. I'm like, is this a different bridge or is this a different river? He's like, no, it's the same one. And I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah, it's just so fucked. It's like, because there's other little things like that people have been reporting online that like animations don't play properly. There's apparently something they did. They made all children units in the game invulnerable. Period. Like you cannot make them you cannot make them vulnerable units for, I suppose, obvious reasons, so that you don't like kill children in the game. But it's fucking It's a fucking RT. Who fucking cares? Like, what the fuck are we, like, this is like some neo-Puritan bullshit. We all know it's fake. Like, you don't have to, like, force this upon us. But what this does is apparently there's a cutscene late in the game where Thrall uses a spell against an enemy that's spell immune, but it's made within the game's framework of, like, the way the game works. So the unit he's trying to target is magic immune, so you can't target him with the spell. But what they did was originally is they put like an invisible child there and targeted the child on top of the unit, so he cast the spell on the child. Apparently that doesn't work now because the child is invulnerable. People believe the child's still there, but it's invulnerable now because of this change, so he just throws an auto attack and kills this really important character with an auto attack rather than a spell. And it's just like, it keeps going. There's more that I'm not bringing up too, man. It's just, I can't fathom it, bro. Like, it's unbelievable. They've somehow sucked the joy out of Warcraft 3, because I was playing it last night, man, and I was like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, I legitimately was like, I was in the middle of the human campaign, and I was like, I don't fucking know if I want to keep doing this. Like, it's just like, this isn't really, I'm not having fun anymore. Like, it's like the game is so sluggish, and the frame drops that I was talking about, and all this shit, all these issues, they've unmade a game, you know, and
which is really hard to do.
It's just, they've unmade a game to a point where it's not fun anymore. And it's wild that I'm saying that about Warcraft 3, but it's just the truth, you know? And
I think the biggest part is you're never going to get a chance to play the older version of this game.
I'd have
again.
to steal it.
You had to pirate it,
which I might do. I don't care, Blizzard. Come after me. I don't give a fuck. I'll fucking because you ruined the game. You know, like you guys did that, and I don't care if you fix it because you released this. You released this pile of shit, and a lot of people are speculating because apparently Activision Blizzard's financial quarter, they needed today was the final day of their financial quarter or for the year, for their fiscal year, the last day that they could get revenue and count it towards this fiscal year. And that people are speculating that's why the game came out on the 28th of January, 6 days before the end of their fiscal year, is so they could get the money for that because Blizzard didn't release a game last year, you know?
Man, remember when we didn't worry about this shit? We didn't worry about corporate fucking fiscal years and all that shit like that. I miss those times,
dude. I miss those times a lot.
Man, that's fucking crazy.
Well, we haven't even talked about this yet. So Blizzard, actually, yeah, we haven't talked about a couple things. So this game, obviously, there's a huge upset group of people, and they've been review bombing the shit out of this game on Metacritic to the point that it is now at a 0.5 of 10 on Metacritic, the user scores, with 25,389 ratings as of this exact moment. And people have been trying to get it to 0.4 for like 3 days. I think they want to get it all the way down to 0.3 because it would be Warcraft 0.3 Reforged, which would be pretty awesome, actually. But obviously, this is the only way, beyond refunding the game, the only way we have to send a message to Blizzard. I don't partake in this kind of thing personally, but the fact that people are doing this, I mean, Blizzard has to have taken note of this. It's impossible for them not to have noticed. It's the worst rated game on Metacritic at this point, which is it's just so sad to say that. But Blizzard released a statement on yesterday, on Monday, basically in response to this. So I'm just going to read this real quick. I quote, "Hail War 3 players. We've been following the discussions the past couple days and want to thank you for your feedback as well as your support. First off, we want to say that we're sorry to those of you who didn't have the experience you wanted, and we'd like to share our plans for what's coming next.
AKA, fuck you for buying our games.
There were a few hours during launch day where we experienced server load issues that impacted players' abilities to jump right in, but we were able to resolve those later in the day. Separate from that, we've seen community feedback about different aspects of Reforged that we want to take some time to address. Before we go on, the team is excited that Warcraft 3 Reforged is finally upon us, and we're fully committed to supporting the game for a long time to come. The next few patches and updates we'll discuss below are part of our ongoing plans. This game is an integral part of the Blizzard DNA with a team that loves Warcraft 3, and we're looking forward to pouring our hearts into Reforged and the Warcraft 3 community for the long term. One of the concerns that with Reforged that we've seen are the visuals when selecting Classic mode. We've identified the bug causing the colors and shading to look different from the original Warcraft 3, and we're testing a fix that will be incorporated in a larger patch addressing this issue and others. We expect to release that late this week. The patch will also address many other known issues, such as fixing some portrait animations and audio bugs, implementing some UI fixes, and more. Please keep an eye out for the patch notes for their detailed list of the bug fixes. Another area of concern we're seeing is regarding online features such as leaderboards and clans, which applies to all Warcraft 3 players, including those who haven't purchased Reforged. At BlizzCon, we talked a lot about how the team is actively working on standing up the back end to ensure a smooth transition to this new MMR system, much like we did with StarCraft Remastered. As with Remastered, these and other features will be included in a major patch for Reforged, which will also address the issues for players of the original game. We'll share release plans as work progresses in the coming weeks. Please be assured that the team is hard at work on standing these features up. There are some individual concerns we've seen that we are not currently planning to address, and we want to give the community a heads up. As of version 1.30 of the original game, we saw very low usage of tournaments and of the Reign of Chaos rule set, so we removed both in mid-2019 in version 1.31. Eliminating the maintenance for underused elements has helped us streamline our overall support of the game and focus on areas impacting the most players. That said, we do anticipate that players who prefer Reign of Chaos will find custom games with similar rule sets, which we hope that will help satisfy that concern. Related to that, as we talked about last year at BlizzCon, we did not want the in-game cutscenes to steer too far from the original game. We went a little deeper into the thought process behind that at the show, but the main takeaway is that the campaigns tell one of the classic stories in Warcraft history, and we want to preserve the true spirit of Warcraft 3 and allow players to relive that unforgettable moment as they were, albeit rebuilt with new animations and the higher fidelity art. We know this update doesn't address all questions, but we're committed to the development and support of this game. We hope you'll keep an eye out for this week's patch and future updates and let us know what you think as we continue fine-tuning things. Until then, thank you, as always, for your support and passion for Warcraft 3. We appreciate all your feedback, and we'll continue to keep the Warcraft 3 community updated on everything we're working on. Sincerely, the Warcraft 3 Reforged team. End quote. So, two things jump out immediately. The first one is what a non-apology that is at the very top. First, quote, we want to say we're sorry to those of you who didn't have the experience you wanted. You know, like, come on. What a way to take a shot at people, dude. You know? Like, it's such a fucking backhanded way to say we're sorry. Like, we're sorry that you didn't like the game. Like,
they didn't say we're sorry. They're essentially blaming you for not liking the game. What do you mean you didn't like it? But we're sorry you didn't like it, but we loved it.
Dude, like, come on, man. And then the second thing I want to point out is their comments about not changing the cutscenes. This is literally them contradicting themselves, because I said earlier that they blame the fans, which they did at BlizzCon. They said fans didn't want us to change the cutscenes, so we decided not to change the cutscenes. And then they're saying here that they wanted to tell the stories and make sure they maintain the spirit of the original Warcraft 3, which is fucking bullshit, because the goddamn game has so many campaign changes that weren't in the original game.
Yeah.
Dude, like I said, they remade 3 missions, like completely changed the maps for 3 missions, and didn't finish those maps. So they're like those maps are like fucking like these stapled together fucking abominations at this point. And then a bunch of other shit like cutscene changes and small minor changes to certain maps. They've changed a ton of shit in this game. It doesn't maintain the spirit of Warcraft 3 at all.
Yeah.
It's totally fucked, dude. Like, this is such a bullshit, garbage PR statement. And basically what they've confirmed to me is they're going to fix the bugs for this game, and they're going to fix the major issues with this game, and they're going to implement a couple things, and I think they're going to abandon this game in 6 months. Like, that's what I think is going to happen. And this is my biggest fear, is they're just going to leave this game and fucking just leave it ruined, you know? They're not going to even fix it, you know?
Yeah.
Because if they do that, then Warcraft 3 is fucked. They've killed it. It's dead. No one's going to fucking play this game if they do that, you know? And that is the biggest shame to come out of this whole situation for me.
Get it all out. Get it all out.
I needed to vent, man. I'm sorry, guys. I know I've talked a lot in this episode, but this is like a therapy session for me. I needed this so much, because this has been pent up in me for a literal week, you know? I've just been watching this and playing this and seeing all the people on Reddit and on Twitter and all the YouTube videos and everything about this game, and it's just breaking me. It's breaking my fucking heart, you know? It's like, the idea that I won't be able to play this game in the way it was intended to be played back in 2003 is just the most depressing thing imaginable, you know? It's like it's like if they remade Kingdom Hearts and like completely changed it from what it was, you know, or Kingdom Hearts 2, you know, they remade Kingdom Hearts 2, but they remade it worse, and they like made this like bastardized abomination where like parts of it are good and parts of it are fucking terrible. The things they change and shit. It's like,
I'm just trying to think of a game they can. I don't know. Maybe if they did like League like this, where instead of just doing a graphical update, they just completely change League and Dota to where you just don't even know what the fuck this game is anymore.
Like they got rid of Summoner's Rift.
Yeah,
like it's entirely got rid of Summoner's Rift and just made a new map.
Yeah, and you just like where the mod. They got rid of the like minion models, and they just changed everything. Like sound and stuff don't work the way, visual cues and sound cues, audio cues don't work the same, because I mean you tune your ear for this. I mean, I know it's the same for Dota, where you tune your ear for certain things to hear and certain things to see, and they just changed all that, and you can't go back to the original. I mean, they do it every patch, technically, but I just never seen a game completely wipe out their old game like this. Like, I don't know what to say. Like,
well, two more things that are wild to me. Ultra wide monitor support is totally fucking broken, and Jet confirmed this for us when he talked to us about it. Remember how he said he had to play the game in windowed full screen to be able to play it at his monitor resolution?
Yeah,
like that is broken. Like it doesn't work in full screen. And this is the one that really told me though that they didn't give a flying fucking shit about this game. You can't rebind keys. It's a PC game. You cannot rebind keys in the game. There's no menu for it. And when you click on custom keybinds, there's a little blurb that says exit the game and go to this file path and you can map keys for every specific hero in this text file. They tell you to go outside the game and edit the text file.
I shouldn't have to do that.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Even PUBG has that option.
Are you fucking kidding me? You couldn't make an interface for keybinds. You didn't have the time or you didn't want to put enough effort forth to make a menu for keybinds?
Bro, they're making Diablo 4 and Overwatch 2.
You know what? Let's move on to those because this is, at this point, I don't think any of us can trust Blizzard anymore. I don't think, I was skeptical about Overwatch 2. I don't think it's going to be a good game. I don't think it's going to justify having a 2. And Diablo 4 was at least somewhat appealing to me at BlizzCon. But I have no fucking faith at them at this point. I feel like whatever game they release that is called Diablo 4, it probably is going to look nothing like the game they showed at BlizzCon this past year. Like, at this point, that's my expectation with these guys. Like, and that's fine. They used to do that back in the day where they would change these games, but it would be good.
Yeah.
You know? And I don't believe whatever they release is going to be good. And I don't care. I don't think I'm going to play Diablo 4 now. I don't want to play their games. I'm done. Like, dude, this is it. This is the last straw. Like,
this is your jump off. This is your leap off.
Why would I play Diablo 4 when I know it's not going to be better than Grim Dawn? Why would I do that?
I mean, I'm just asking. This is it?
I feel like I'm done. I feel that way right now. Maybe in a year and a half or 2 years when Diablo 4 comes out, I'll be cooled off.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just don't. And the thing is, it's becoming a moral quandary for me now. Whether I'm interested in Diablo 4 or not, do I need to play it so bad that I really want to give this company money? Because I gave them money for Warcraft 3 Reforged, and I'm not going to refund it.
And I think that's the bigger question right there. Like, do you want to continue to give this game company money? I see a lot of gamers complaining about it, and I'm not putting you in this boat, but how long are we going to let game companies do this? It is their property, and it is their IP, but I'll take it for like cars, for instance, right?
Yeah.
It's only so long before we, as consumers, say, all right, Ford or whatever company, stop building this shitty car. You know what? I'm just not going to buy it anymore. I'm going to go over to car company C now because they're...
Yeah.
Like, and I feel like gamers need to do the same thing with video games. Like, sorry, guys. I understand these companies make your favorite IPs. I understand it. But you got to understand when to not give these companies money. And I'm not saying shit on developers. I understand development. I understand they need money.
Right.
And but I also understand, too, that they don't have any control of what they do sometimes. Right. 90% of the time, it's the leadership that's saying, do this.
Well, that's why, like, Lemon Sky with the models, I don't really blame them for what happened because, like I said, Blizzard's the one that signs off on everything. And you know what's fucking funny is a lot of the models, like, they were built from you looking at them straight ahead like it's a third-person game, but it's an RTS. So, like, they don't look good when you're looking at them from above, like an isometric perspective. Like, there's an example, a key example is there's a ward. You know how in, like, Dota they have, like, observer wards and shit?
Yeah.
Well, that shit, like, Warcraft 3 has that. Like, a unit has an ability called Sentry Ward. And it's just like an eyeball and a stick that's like, you know, it shows you part of the map or whatever.
But it stands straight up instead of
and it's looking straight ahead. It's not looking up the way it used to. So you can't see the eyeball. It's like, Are you like basic shit like that? They didn't even tell them that this was for an RTS. You know, it's like I just can't. So that's my thing. I'm at this point, like I'm not even interested in Overwatch 2. I'm not going to play it, dude. I don't care. Fuck that game. Fuck that series. I'm not interested, you know? I don't think they're going to give me a value proposition there that's worth it. And Diablo 4, like, do I need that game? No. I'm just going to go play Path of Exile 2 if I want a new ARPG. I think that's where I'm at.
The thing about Overwatch, and I love its dedicated fan base, but I think they're blinded too. They don't think this is going to happen to them. Thing is, it's already happening to them. They shut down an Overwatch league already in college.
Yep.
So what do you think they're going to do to your Overwatch? Like, they're going to do the same thing.
They shut down Hearthstone. I mean, not Hearthstone. Heroes of the Storm.
Heroes of the Storm. And when Overwatch stopped making money, your game's going to be on chopping block next.
Yeah. Yeah, and what I've heard about Hearthstone is they have like a skeleton crew developing that game still, just keeping it alive so it can make some more money, essentially.
Yeah. It's going to be the same thing with Overwatch.
It's a fucking tragedy, man.
Because I don't think Overwatch 2 is going to be as popular as Overwatch 1 was. I don't think it's going to have the same cultural impact it did. And let's be honest, I even read an article that said one of the developers was like, yeah, that's probably the main reason why it's popular. It's because of the porn. Like, let's just be totally honest, right? Like, it's because of the porn. Like, that's why people like these characters. That's why they play it. Mm-hmm. When I play the game, I don't see it. I just don't see why it's so.
It's fun for a couple weeks.
Yeah,
that's all Overwatch was.
And me. But it should be a free to play game at that point.
Right.
Like that's how I feel about League. Like League, I can play for a couple weeks, and then I gotta get away from it. Dota do the same thing. I gotta get away from it, but I can come back to it because it's a free game. Whereas with Overwatch, you feel like some kind of obligation because you have to play it because you paid $60 for this game.
Right.
You paid $30 for Reforged. Not only did it ruin your game, but even if you refund it, right, you can't go back and play it, which is crazy to me. They completely gutted a game.
They took features away from a game that's existed for 17 years. You know, like I didn't expect they'd keep the BattleNet servers online forever.
Yeah, I knew that was going to go away sometime, but I thought they integrated everything over.
Right. Like the tournaments and clans and all that stuff. It's all gone now. The chat rooms are worse too. Like the interface for chat is worse than it was in the original game. Like it's so bad. It's so sad, dude. It's so ridiculous. And like I've like reading through all this shit. Apparently World of Warcraft is fucking up in flames right now. Battle for Azeroth was apparently like a horrible fucking expansion, and people are pissed about that. And they have Shadowlands coming out in a few months, I guess, and nobody seems to be excited for it. I just think this company's in dire straits right now. I really don't know if they're going to be around. Like I was joking with my brother, like I think Blizzard could be dead in 10 years.
Wow, you think so?
I'm not kidding, man. This is how bad this is. Think about it. If Diablo 4 and Overwatch 2 don't sell very well, what do they have?
I think they're going to be absorbed.
WoW's going to die. Hearthstone eventually is going to die. They've killed Heroes of the Storm. Warcraft 3 didn't work out. StarCraft's dead. What do they have to hang their hat on? If these two games don't hit for them, they're going to be in a bad spot. Like desperate, And there's nothing they can do themselves because they are merged with Activision. They can't. The only way is if they bought themselves out and Activision wanted to let them go. That is the only way.
Yeah, they have to pull.
They'd have to pull a Bungie, and it's harder than pulling a Bungie because Bungie wasn't owned by Activision. It was just a contract.
It was a partnership.
That was a lot easier to manage. The only dicey part about that was getting the Destiny IP, and they managed that. With Blizzard, it's like you'd have to buy out the whole studio plus the IP plus all the employees you have. Like, dude, it's not going to happen, And J. Allen Brack is not the kind of guy who's going to do that. So.
Well, it's funny. This situation is similar to the Destiny.
Yeah.
Destiny 1, the last patch had everything everyone wanted. It was so robust, had features that everyone wanted, and then Destiny 2 came out, and it was like a shell of itself. It's almost like the Reforged, right? The last patch for Warcraft 3 was pretty robust, had ladders, had all this stuff. and then Reforged come out, and it's like these people didn't even consult or even play the original Reforged. They just went into it and didn't even care about it. Mm-hmm. So I mean, we're definitely seeing some kind of trends here. But like you said, it was a partnership with Bungie, and maybe Bungie saw that and they got out. I mean, they did see it and they got out of it. I mean, we all know too that it was some that was Bungie's fault as well, but that's a whole different story. It's their leadership. But
they seem to have seen the light.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas Blizzard is the exact opposite. They've embraced the dark side in a bad way. J. Allen Brack is such a phony motherfucker. Like I told you before, like he just looks like a slimy person and he sounds like a slimy person. And that's the impression I get from this dude every time he talks. He talked about at BlizzCon how we have to come together and they need to they understand what they did wrong and they apologize and they'll do better in the future.
It's PR bullshit.
This isn't doing better. Yeah, it's all PR bullshit. I don't believe anything they say now, and I don't think I'm the only one who's going to be done with this. Like, what do they offer that is enticing to somebody like me anymore? Nothing, dude. Like, Diablo 4 is it. That is the only game of theirs that is even mildly appealing to me, and I don't even need that. You know? I don't need that game. I can live without that game. This isn't like a new Mass Effect. Like, I can't live without a new Mass Effect. Diablo 4, I can live without Diablo 4, dude. If they announced a Warcraft 4, I don't know if I care. I don't think this company can make that game.
Yeah, I would just say like.
Plus, they're never going to. They don't give a shit about RTS games.
Because the stories take place in WoW now. So.
Right. And the fact that we're at that point, and I'm not kidding you when I say this. I really do believe this company could be dead a decade from now.
What's crazy is they had the potential to make a Warcraft 4, especially with WoW Classic, because they could have took it in a different direction.
Well, that's what I was hoping would come out of this game, is that this game would do well and would be awesome, and they would do a good job with it, and people would get really into the story, and it would give them an opportunity to justify making a Warcraft 4. That was my hope, and that's dead. It's as dead as it's ever been. I don't think we're ever going to get that game. You know?
I'm sorry, Justin. I remember, man, you saw the patch notes. You were in the closet, man. We were in the closet recording, and you saw those patch notes, and you're like, fuck, I think they're going to remake this game.
Yeah.
And you were so happy.
No, that was before we started making the podcast, man.
Oh, that was before?
That was pre-BlizzCon 2018. That was in October of 2018.
Oh, shit.
I remember, because I told you, I saw a news story about Warcraft 3 getting an update, and I was like, what the fuck? And it was
we were in the old area.
We were, yeah.
Right.
And everybody listening right now, if you haven't listened to every episode we've done, BlizzCon 2018 is the reason this podcast exists. Montrell and I had so much to say about that conference that we decided we wanted to start a podcast together, basically. Like, because there was so much to say there, and we couldn't talk about it at our jobs, that we needed an outlet to talk about these things. And it's like, I guess it's ironic in a way that Blizzard's failure.
It starts with Blizzard, but it's definitely not gonna end with Blizzard.
No, it's not.
But it is pretty funny. Thinking about that company, I thought that company was untouchable. Especially when I played StarCraft years later after it was released. Because I didn't play StarCraft until like 2002, 2003.
They were untouchable.
And I played that game, and I just remember like, man, this story is fucking good.
Mm-hmm. And Warcraft 3 is up there, man. It's up there. It's not as good as StarCraft's story, in my opinion, but it's damn close, and it's worth experiencing. And that's the sad part about Reforged, is that great game, Warcraft 3, is in here. It's in here somewhere. Like I play it, and like I experience the cutscenes, and I'm excited, and I'm having fun, and it's like it peeks through the cracks of this shithole, you know. And it's so bullshit that it's just covered with a pile of garbage.
What was interesting is the cutscene that was his name Arthas?
Yeah, Stratholme, the one they showed at BlizzCon 2018.
Yeah. That cutscene was so cool to me, because for that brief 2 minutes and 30 seconds, I was invested. I'm like, holy shit. I don't even know what the fuck is going on. We used to kill villagers, and like
there isn't even that much of there isn't even that many voice lines, but there's like a build up of tension in that one cutscene.
Yeah, and
let alone the rest of the campaign up to that point.
And I told you that makes me want to like get into the story. Like I'm actually about to go home and watch YouTube videos for the story because I don't think I'm going to play the game, but I want to play the game because I think that's the best way to experience it.
Man, I should just buy it for you.
Nah,
I don't want to give Blizzard money, but
Nah,
I want you to play this game, and I want to play multiplayer with you and Jet, man. I really think we would have a fucking blast playing multiplayer with this game. You know, both of you having played MOBAs, and I know you've both played StarCraft. Like, I just feel like this game would be really fun for the three of us.
Yeah, yeah.
And because, dude, this is a game. You know, in StarCraft, when you lose your base and you know you the game is over or whatever. Warcraft 3 was so much more unique in this way, where you never felt like you were dead. Because I remember games, man, where people would do these hacky strategies where they would build all siege tanks, which were units that could not attack other units. They could only attack buildings, and they blow your fucking base up. And they'd have no units, so you'd have your army still there, like fully alive, but you'd have no base. So you'd go build a farm in a corner of the fucking map, and you win the game because they couldn't find the farm in time before you killed their base.
Yeah.
Like, it's shit like that, man, that Warcraft 3 was so unique with. Like, that was the game that really taught me to never give up in online games. You know, that's the reason I never give up when I play Dota. It's the reason I never give up when I play PUBG, is because Warcraft 3 like allowed that mentality to exist, you know? I remember 4v4s, man, where we would have that, where people would get eliminated and like three of us would have no bases and we'd be building a farm over here and trying to build. I remember games, man, where somebody had so much money, all he had was a worker, and he built a farm and then he built a shitload of towers, so many towers that the opposing teams could not destroy them. Like, it was insane, and he eventually got to the point where he was able to kill everybody, you know, by himself, and it took like 2.5 hours, but it was insane. It was the most wild shit, you know? It's stuff like that. You would never see that in StarCraft, you know?
Yeah.
So, this game is special, dude. It's a special game, and it sucks. I want you to play it. I want you to experience it. I don't know how, like, I can't justify telling you to buy this, though, you know? It's just not worth it. So, I don't know. Maybe you should just go watch the original game. Watch someone play it. Like, I almost recommend, don't just watch the cutscenes. Watch them actually play the missions. Like, I know that's more time consuming, but it would be worth it, you know?
Okay.
Because I think that it would really show you what the game is all about, you know, versus what you've seen now. So that's my recommendation, at least. So I don't know. I don't want to talk about this anymore. We've been talking about this for nearly 2 hours. I've vented. I've let it out. Do you have anything else to say about Warcraft 3 Reforged?
Man, I want it to get better, but I don't think it will. And I think this is the death of Warcraft, not as a brand, but I think in the next 5 years, I wouldn't be surprised if they just let Warcraft.
WoW's gonna shut down at some point.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised in 5 years WoW shut down.
I wouldn't either. They've fucked up so many expansions at this point.
Yeah, Warcraft WoW Classic can only last so long before I think that dies. And I think this is probably going to expedite that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people who are playing Classic WoW came from Warcraft 3.
Yep. Well, and a lot of people playing Classic WoW who didn't play Warcraft 3 are trying to play Warcraft 3.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a piece of garbage. So yeah. All right, guys. Well, like we said, no news. We're not going over any game releases. We're going to do all that next week, basically big 2 weeks in a row. So hopefully you like this discussion about Warcraft 3. I'm sorry if you didn't. But I had to talk about this. Like I said, this is one of my favorite games of all time.
I think we had to talk about it.
It
was a peak moment in video game history. I think a lot of people, even on my Twitter, who are like young, like 18, 19, they're like, man.
This is a turning point.
Yeah, they really fucked this game up. And they never played this game. They're probably born when this game came out.
Right.
So
well, and talking about Blizzard, I think in general is it's kind of our bread and butter. Like, I feel like as a podcast, it's probably the studio we know best between the two of us.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just this company is so fascinating to me and sad, and I don't want to see them go down this path, but at this point, I almost want them to die just so we can stop the ruining of their legacy, you know? That's where I'm at with it at this point. So we'll see. Maybe they'll release the original version of Warcraft 3 on GOG or something, the way they did with like Diablo 1 and 2 and Warcraft 2. That would be nice. Maybe that'll be their kind of olive branch, I guess, to the community. That would be kind of cool. That's the only way I see it happening. They're not going to do it on the Blizzard store, but Yeah. So, all right, that's it, guys. If you like this episode, please like the episode, review the episode, and subscribe to the show on whatever feed you're listening to it on. And if you could, please share it with your friends. We would love to talk to you guys and grow the audience in situations like this. I really would love to hear people's feedback about a situation like this. It is kind of sad that Montrell and I are kind of encapsulated together, but we don't know what all of you think about what we're talking about. So, but if you would like to interact with us on Twitter, you can do so at iTrap for the Hokage for Montrell. That is a number 4, not the word. I am at ThunderNut01, and the show is at The Player's Take. If you'd like to send us a question, you can do so on Twitter, or you can send us an email to theplayerstake01@gmail.com. And that is going to be it for us. Next week, as I said, it's going to be a monster-sized news show, more than likely 2 weeks of news. And then the week after that, it has been announced that on the 15th of February, PlayStation is going to be having a PlayStation meeting where they are presumably going to be announcing and revealing the PlayStation 5 in its entirety. So the show after that will be probably packed with PS5 news. So look forward to the next couple of weeks. We got a lot to talk about. So we hope you enjoyed this one, and we will see you on the next one. All right, bye, guys.